Koreans are spending billions of dollars into English education, and I noticed that most of the Koreans are still stuck. I'm gonna tell you why is it and how to fix that as well. Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to today's video. Today, we're gonna talk about why Koreans really struggle with speaking English fluently. I really wanted to expose this. It's a ruthless fact that I think you should hear. And hopefully by the end of this video, you know what to do exactly. And I've came to the 3 conclusions and I'm going to share with you now. First one is that focusing on the perfections, either that's a grammar or the sentences, unless you find the perfect sentence for the specific situations, you tend to not open up and you tend to not speak up because you don't feel you have complete sentences in your mind that you feel confident to speak it out. Okay, number 2, too much passive learning. I find this mistake all the time, including myself. I used to do it when I came to Australia. What's happening is that when you get stuck at speaking in English because you're exposed to the environment or the situations where you need to step up and then articulate yourself even better than what you normally do, you tend to freeze up and then you back off and then think, my English is not good enough. But if you really think about how we acquire a language, is that it's like learning to ride a bike. If you want to learn to ride a bike, how can you run a bike well while you're trying to learn them only through the theory? Obviously, good combination of each will let you ride a bike even faster, but then what you essentially got to do is just ride the bike. You don't need a theory, you just ride a bike to the certain level, and then you go back and learn the theory that makes you to go to the pro level. Same as in English and same as in Korean. We never really learned grammar, or we never really learned perfect sentences until primary school for our Korean grammar. And then, once we get there, we could already speak fluent Koreans in the day-to-day life. Then we started learning and building grammar structure. Then we were able to articulate and explain complex theory better than we used to. So we're not here yet. You know, most people aren't stuck here. Most people are stuck here right now where basic communication skill isn't developed yet. And then you're trying to develop this by learning the textbook, not by riding a bike straight away. Okay, last but not least, third one is the fear of embarrassment from the cultural aspect. I realized Koreans do care a lot about how they are perceived by the others. They're afraid of being judged, or they care so much about how the other person will think of them when they do this, or when they make mistake, or when they do look imperfect. Culturally, I realize a lot of the people are just conditioned to pick up on every small mistakes and details from the other people and pointing it out. I'm like, how can you speak English in this environment? You know, in the environment where you need to continuously make mistakes and then continuously develop from the mistake you make, but then the environment is not allowing you to make mistake freely. So I think this has to be some form of cultural movement that we all in Korea have to be aware of where we are, and then in order for us to move to the next level, we really do need to embrace imperfections rather than striking for perfection, rather than making perfect sentences all the time. We focus on delivering our message. We focus on using language as a tool and leveraging them to communicate with the others so that we get the job done, not to look perfect to the others so that other person think I'm smart. And here, I could be completely wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong on the comment sections. But what I've realized is that it seems like Korean giant corporates where they run English education seems to be wanting you to fail in English speaking journey so that they can continue to take profit. One of the good examples is that my students and my parents signed up for some classes like Siwon-Sukul or Yanadu and all that. And while they paid $700 or even more to this platform, they had 0 increase in level of English. And I spoke to a lot of people in Australia who has previously started this journey. And then I found only 10% or less amount of people were actually completing the courses. And they weren't actually trying to make or help users to be able to continue on with the course. So what I realized is that they sold a lot of courses, but they didn't help users get back onto the app or even call them or send the notifications or email or even text to get them back on board so that they can continue the English learning journey. So I found one, the English learning method is from the wrong approach to be able to actually help us speak fluent English. And then the second, they took the money and they didn't really care. They just, okay, like we made the money. How can we make more money in the next time? If I made $500 million or more above in a year, I would have spent hundreds of millions of dollars to develop an algorithm that forces us to come back and then learn the program and learn through the journey while it's being really complicated and challenging. Take Duolingo as an example. Duolingo actually takes responsibility on bringing users back on the app and then helping everyone to continue on with the journey. Because language learning is not only about how to learn. We all know how to learn, but it was more like, how can we stick to our plan and then continue on without stopping? So that's why I focused a lot on helping students to be disciplined and be consistent with their language learning goals so that they can see in 1 year time frame, rather than going straight like a linear progression. You go up and down and up and down. But in the end, you learn to control yourself. You learn to discipline yourself on what really matters to be able to be consistent. And then in the end, you become the person who can continue on even though you're stressed, even though you're very busy, or even some dramatic stuff happens. You don't make excuse and stick to your plan. Okay, so I was born in Korea and I moved to Australia when I was 18 years old. So in Korean age, that's 20. But the methods that I used in Korea to learn English versus the method that I used in Australia is completely different. Back in Korea, obviously I studied grammar and news, just like the 수능 related textbooks that we go through. I did study them, but I really didn't find them helpful or meaningful because it wasn't aligned with my value, which was to be able to speak in English. But then I was reading complex sentences that doesn't really help me to be able to articulate. So something was off. But then when I came to Australia, what I did completely different was that exposing myself in an English speaking environment where I continuously get exposed from English from everyone around me. So I made English speaking girlfriend and I made English speaking friend. And then I got a job that I need to speak English as well. So wherever I go or whenever I am throughout the day, I was obliged to speak and communicate in English. So it allowed me to think in English, continuously get exposed and learn all the time. And I know that it's very hard to create this environment in Korea. So what I suggest you is that I would really focus on speaking up and then make more mistakes and just start conversations with the foreigners or other people who speaks in English. In that way, that allocations of your time will be really effectively allowing you to learn and acquire language faster.